And we are live. Gonna roll the intro.
Here goes.
From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports podcast after show. I am Paul Dawalibi, the prophet of esports. I'm joined today by my friend and co-host, William, the Professor Collis, with probably the most beautiful background in all of gaming.
I do.
In all of esports, in all of business. Are there words there?
There are. I'll rotate it so you can see the words, but it is unique. It is uniquely for you, Paul. I figured you would like it. I figured it would be just for you. All right, but let's get into it. This is going to be a fun one tonight. We had some great topics today, but
we did. But for those who are new to the live stream, welcome to the official live stream of esports. What we do here is we cover the stuff that didn't make it into the podcast. I hate calling it the cutting room floor, but it's the stuff that didn't make it into the podcast, that didn't make it into the main event. You're here for the after party. I would argue this gets more fun than the podcast.
This is significantly better than the podcast. I actually, to be honest with you, this is weird to say, but this is what I look forward to the most. You know what I mean? I don't know. I absolutely love doing this one with you. Cause it's we can talk about what we want. We're not as limited by form. You know what I mean? It's just, there's just a lot more, that we can enjoy with it, I feel like. And I feel like we're a little more unfiltered too, which makes it way more fun. We can joke around with each other. We can do things see if this is going to work here. We can do things like this if it ever loads.
Does anyone need more of my face is the question. There's a reason we do a podcast. It's so no one has to see the face.
That is absolutely not true. But I will tell you that there's no such thing as too much volatility.
I will say, William, when Henry Cavill dropped that video of him building a PC, my inbox was full. I can show you.
Really?
Of was people? Full. Twitter blowing up, people asking why I made this video of me building a PC. And I'm I build them all the time. I don't know. Why would...
The same
Why
thing
are you
happens,
asking? I mean, I have a million of them back here.
It's weird. The same thing happens to me. Every time Taylor Swift is in concert, people email me and they say, "You looked incredible. I had no clue you wrote all those songs.
You should have told us you were in town."
Yeah, you should.
Derek says, "Hey guys, good afternoon." Good afternoon, Derek. Good evening for those who are on the East Coast. Martin says, "That will haunt me." I hope you don't mean William's background because it really is beautiful. Hey William, why only William? What's
it's Ankit. It's Ankit.
Why only William? I feel like
no, I know Ankit. That guy just raised $5 million. Hi Ankit.
Cam says, "Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Good to see you back, Cam. We missed you last week." And this is the Business of Esports unfiltered. I kind of like that.
Honestly, I'm actually thinking, Paul, and maybe people in the chat can comment on this. Would you guys like it if we recorded the podcast like this? I don't think we would live stream the podcast ever because with the guests, but would you guys like it if
you always have to reserve the right for the guest to edit things out? That's the trouble with live streaming the podcast.
Yeah, because let me tell you guys, some things the guests say is not.
What a disaster.
Oh my God. The train is off the tracks and the bus is in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I will tease on this week's podcast. So, because I like to start with that.
So I can stop.
What you guys can expect tomorrow to hear on the podcast. We covered Henry Cavill building his computer.
Yep.
We covered Logic retiring from the music industry and signing an exclusive deal with Twitch, which we thought was interesting. We talk about, and for fans of the podcast or longtime listeners of the podcast, they will like this one. We talked about a drop in the cost of Overwatch and Call of Duty franchises. Basically the rumor that Activision Blizzard might be giving money back to the owners or basically delaying franchise payments or something of that sort.
Yeah.
Overwatch League's dead.
Yeah. It's not doing well. It's not doing well.
And then we talked about FaZe Clan execs leaving. I might as well show these articles.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Well, that's just me.
Oh, what happened there?
Oh no! Come on. Even
No,
that's too. This is too shill for me.
I'm just playing around. I'm going to go back to my favorite background.
even this, there's some line that may be too much. We talk about FaZe Clan execs leaving to start their own esports org, XSET, which was interesting. And then we talk about Caffeine getting 113 million in
which
funding.
is incredible. Wow. Ankit. So actually, Ankit, who's listening here, Ankit, do you remember? I think you took Caffeine's call when they reached out to us about working with Gamer Sensei like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's incredible to see that they've raised that much money.
I mean, good for those guys. Raising 250 million total is.
Oh my God, what legends! I mean, anyone who can get that amount of money is just so talented. You know,
it's also the nature of the investors in their business. Like Andreessen doesn't get out of bed if they're not writing a $20 million check. I know. Mean, like you can't manage $1 billion fund plus and write $2-3 million checks. It just doesn't work. So you end up with these gigantic rounds because these venture funds that have a lot of capital need to put it to work.
Yeah. I really hope they put that money where it deserves. Henry Cavill building a PC every week. That's what we need.
We will get him on the podcast.
We will.
I'm telling you right now, for our listeners. We will have Henry Cavill on the podcast.
Like this is not a joke, guys. Like he really this is like we're not kidding around. Like
I'm gonna roast him for his building technique because it wasn't Verge bad because nothing is Verge bad, but it could use some work. I'm
gonna roast him for his talent point assignment in Witcher 3. The guy is a total jokester. Like
does he stream his Witcher 3 gameplay?
No, Paul. But I mean, hypothetically. Like,
how do you know he's no good?
I don't know. I gotta roast him about something. No, he probably has a much more. He probably goes like the mutagen build. He's probably like really legit. Like here I am spamming the.
He is the Witcher. If anyone's gonna be pretty legit, hopefully it's him.
He's a good guy. I love him. He's good. Yeah.
Stuff we didn't get to. Let's start with a piece of news I love because it's not yet another proof point that I am the prophet. Logitech and Herman Miller team up to make the M-Body gaming chair. But let's be clear, they didn't make the M-Body gaming chair. I'm sitting in one. It has been around for many years. The greatest chair you can sit in, basically. But the article, this is from The Verge. Basically, these two companies are teaming up. It's going to have a $1,500 price tag. It's basically Herman Miller's M-Body chair with a slightly different seat cushion that's supposed to remove heat or keep it cooler longer for extended gaming sessions, And it has the Logitech G logo on it and the Logitech colors, that blue and black. But other than that, it's a Herman Miller M-Body. So arguably, though, a high-priced one. Like Herman Miller M-Bodies start around $1,300. They can get up to like $1,800, but usually they're on sale. Like usually they don't cost more than about $1,500. I'm curious what you think, William. Do you like this, or is this like, who cares? This is so expensive, no one's gonna buy it.
I'll go right out there and say I think the aesthetics are disappointing if those are really the final aesthetics.
What? It's a beautiful chair. It looks straight out of the bridge of a starship.
I don't know. I'm not there, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna buy it. I mean, quite seriously, like look, I use this chair. I like this chair. It's not a great chair, like 90% of why I bought this chair is this color, right? Like it's sort of like the look, right? It's like the thing you do, but I don't find it particularly, it's not like the greatest chair in my life. If you sit in a Herman Miller chair, they're phenomenal chairs. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that to like shill Herman Miller. I mean, they're really nice. Like and for the amount of time you spend sitting per day, it makes complete sense to have a high quality chair. It really does.
It has a 12-year warranty, so you got to think it's like $100 a year, basically, if the chair lasts you 12 years.
And take it from somebody who really damaged their posture by using bad chairs for way too long. Like, it makes a difference. Like, it's one of the few things. Like, I would honestly spend on a gaming chair before I spent on gaming hardware right now. Yeah, but like, honestly, I think it's that important.
William, to be like, if you're being honest with yourself, is this what you expected from this partnership? Because it's not what I did.
No, it's not what I expected.
I thought when I heard Herman Miller and Logitech that Herman Miller was going to leverage the partnership to go slightly down market, right? Because there's no Herman Miller other than maybe Steelcase, and I'm a Herman Miller fanboy, so Steelcase doesn't come close if you ask me. But other than Steelcase, basically no one owns that high-end office chair the way Herman Miller does. They're they're like the NVIDIA of office chairs, right? At the high end, they've basically got a monopoly between the M Body and the Aeron, which is like the Aeron is the quintessential tech startup chair. Why do I know this much about office furniture?
Yeah, this is like weirdly specific. This is like that article, like the Onion article, like creepy uncle knows way too much about children's television. Like, that's you, Paul. It's like you're like so specific. You're like, the exact price range. You're like, well, it ranges up to $1,400, but usually you can get it on price promo for 12 to 15% off.
No, but because I do think it's important, the chair that you sit in, given how many hours you sit in it. But I expected Herman Miller to say, look, our brand is that high-end, super high-end luxury brand, right? By teaming up with Logitech, we can take a risk down market, and it won't reflect negatively on our brand if it fails. Like, we could do a $400 or $500 chair, call it Logitech X Herman Miller, and sell a lot of these things, hopefully. But if it doesn't work, like the buyers of the $1,500 chairs aren't going to care that the $400 chair wasn't that good.
Yeah, and unless it, and I'm surprised too, because I do think the opportunity for gamers is not it. Because let's be honest, it's expensive.
Yeah,
like a $1,500 chair
is a lot of money
for many people. That's a PC. That's like a good build your own gaming PC. Not like top of the line, but pretty solid. Not what Henry Cavill would build. His was a little pricier, but yeah, it's like, the only thing I keep thinking about this is remember that maybe if you think about like high today, and somebody who knows more about gaming chairs in chat can tell me about this, but today I feel like the highest high-end gaming chairs cap out at like 400, right? Maybe 450 if you do the lights and stuff in there. Maybe it was a thing where the cheapest Herman Miller was willing to compromise on quality was an $800 chair. And at that point, it's such a price step up. You're dealing with such a price insensitive consumer. You might as well have it be a $1,500 chair.
It's a good point. That could be. They figure if you're willing to pay $8, you're probably willing to pay $15.
Because that's sort of probably true. I mean, to some extent, the other piece about it might just be, very honestly, to some extent, do they want to cannibalize their other price points, right? So you're sort of their other chairs, right? So you're sort of saying Aeron is the go-to startup.
But that's like an $800 chair. An Aeron's like an $800 to $1,000 chair.
I guess you're right. Yeah, it's a bit weird that they didn't.
So they have those price categories covered. Like, I thought Logitech partnership meant we're going after the masses. We'll try and keep some of Herman Miller's quality, but people are going to know this is a Logitech product, not just a Herman Miller product.
See, I thought it. Yeah. It's surprising, but I mean,
I also think the buyers of Herman Miller, like if you have the willingness to spend $1,500 on a chair, you're going to do a bit of research, even if you're a gamer, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just buy the Herman Miller M Body? Why would you buy the Logitech one that will probably have considerably worse resale value? Like, if I have an authentic Herman Miller, like I'm sitting on, I can resell this thing. The audience for a G, like it has a G in the, I don't know if there's a picture of it. Like, it has a G right in the headrest. Like, I feel like you hurt the resale value of the chair by putting the Logitech logo on it. Because at $1,500, this is not a Logitech product anymore. This is a Herman Miller product.
I know. Yeah, it's like, it is a little weird to me. It's not the most natural marriage, let's be honest, right?
I expected better, let's put it that way, than just a recolored existing Herman Miller chair.
Well, Yeah, but nonetheless, I think it'll do well. I think this will do well.
Because
I think
the product's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the best chair I've ever sat in.
The underlying product is good. And at the end of the day, if you think of gamers, there's a certain single, relatively high discretionary income, gamer job, guy or girl, right, who wants to spend on the premium gaming experience. And the truth is, you're out of stuff to spend on. Really honestly, quite seriously, one of the problems with games, I feel like, is you cap out a little, right? You can substitute goods, you can have but think about it. Once you have the nicest PC, yeah, you can build another nice PC, you can do laptop debt, but you sort of cap out, right? When you got a great mouse, yeah, you can have multiple mice, but you sort of cap, the chair is an untapped category, right? Previously you were capped at 500. Now you're at 1,500. And I suspect there's just a certain segment that's going to maximize their spend regardless. And 1,500 for a chair is going to seem reasonable, particularly when they probably sit on a $1,500 chair in the office,
I wonder if there's market, even more upscale, William. Is there room for a $3,000 or $4,000 gaming chair?
One thing I truly believe, and I really mean this, is I don't know the size of them. I don't know if it's like a venture scale business, but I really do believe there's a price point above where we are in
for everything, right?
Yeah.
Instead of $100 mice, $400 mice, instead of
I
you know what I mean? Super premium.
I think it's way higher. I think the ceiling on mice is $2,000. Think how important a mouse is. Imagine.
You think people would invest $2,000 in a mouse?
I think if you did it right, for sure. No, let me put it this way. Not only do I think people would, I think almost everybody at a certain skill level would.
It's the golf
effect. I really believe that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like that golf phenomenon. If I think it's going to make me play better, I probably would spend $2,000 on a mouse too.
That's exactly right. And you don't, and do you even care how much better it is? As long as it's better, right?
As long as it's better.
Yeah, because because there's a certain mentality that's maximization, right? Which is just I have to be there's a certain type of person that doesn't show up to battle without the best gear. And it doesn't matter that the differential between the absolute best and the next best is minuscule, right? Why would you put yourself at that disadvantage if you take gaming that seriously? And like I said, the reality is there's a big segment of gamers that are first or second jobs, relatively high discretionary income, and when you're single and living that life, you can afford some ridiculous things, particularly if you're a tech worker out in San Fran. I don't think the market's huge. I don't necessarily think it's the most equitable use in our society today of where funds should go. There's a whole separate question about the morality of these sorts of premium products. And I think in some sense, it's a little concerning that this is the trend that we have, which is not democratization in price, but elitism. But it doesn't change the fact. And my business opinion is there's a market there, And Martin's joking, right? Did you see Martin in the chat? He says that mouse better levitate and warm my hand for 2K.
Warming might be one of those features.
Yeah, I was going to say, Martin, there's a lot of features you don't know you need in a mouse.
Derek says if their name is on it, it has to keep the same standard of quality. Yeah, I assume that's the predicament they found themselves in. But there's so much Logitech branding on it that I felt like they could have gone a different direction. Cam said, I expected a peripheral bundle.
Me too.
Yeah, that would have made more sense, right? Include... I wonder if you could have done everything, desk, keyboard, mouse, the whole ergo setup, basically.
I don't know why there's not a one-stop, I don't know.
Julian says the guitar market has this tier. It almost always has a bespoke aspect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've seen one-off custom mice. Maybe I haven't looked hard enough. But
I think you can, but it's Etsy and it's not real. No, I'm serious. It's not what you would. It's not what you would associate with a performance segment, right?
Yeah. That mouse better levitate and warm my hand for 2K.
I hear that. Yeah.
Martin, are you saying you would buy it if it does those two things? Because maybe we have our first customer.
Yeah.
Derek says the Logitech Air 3D is 26.7K. The Logitech Air 3D?
I'm going to check that. What is that?
Yeah, I don't think I've...
Did we just... Oh, he's right. Most expensive 3D laser mouse in the world.
But is it custom printed to your hand kind of thing?
I don't know. Here, let me send you the link and you can pop it up.
I got it.
Yeah. This is a great catch.
most expensive 3D laser mouse in the world. I mean, it's particularly ugly.
Yeah, I was just thinking, say like this is, man, they didn't spend $1 on aesthetics in this. But why would this have any value at all? Like,
this is weird.
I mean, but see, these things are like, honestly, some of these things are stupid, like studded with pure black diamonds, like Vanta Black, like those are vanity. You know, it has to be performance tied. You know what I mean? Like it has to be tied.
Yeah, I agree. It can't just be jewelry.
Yeah, like and that's also a hack. Like I can make an omelet $33,000 if you let me put diamonds on it. You know,
or gold leaf, like the $10,000 hamburger. It's just like a normal hamburger, and they put like $5,000 of gold leaf.
There was that news article like a couple years ago about like the most expensive omelet in New York, and it was like $5,000. And I was like, why is this news? All they did was dump caviar on it. Like I'll cook that at home. Like.
Except no one's coming to your house to.
Well, I don't know, omelets. Paul. With this wallpaper,
yeah, I might come over.
Do you notice it says "human perfection"? I gave you a caption.
Thank you. I'm gonna change it instead of Paul the Prophet Dawalibi.
It's a great photo of you, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about drive-in esports arenas, William. This is from I don't even know, Deseret. It's not desert, it's Deseret News.com. These 4 cities in the U.S. are creating drive-in esports arenas. Louisville, Kentucky, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, and Laredo, Texas, where you can basically drive in and in the comfort of your car, watch esports. I guess this solves the pandemic problem, right? Because you're socially distanced. The question is, does it remove the social aspect to begin with? Like, I'm not getting. Maybe I don't understand the market for drive-in movie theaters to begin with. Like, and maybe that's the hurdle that I can't get past. Why I don't understand this, or what the. I think this is smarter than building an arena. Let's start there. I just don't even know where to begin on this. It's such a bad idea. I just like. But if you think this is a bad idea, then you think drive-through movie theaters are a bad idea. Drive-in movie theaters. Well, no, there's a difference because, like, first of all, drive-through movie theaters are much more mass market. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, they're just a little like there's just more people who go see movies than watch esports today because everybody will go see a movie. Like, literally every single. Second of all, is drive-through movie theaters have a heritage, right? Like, I think it's a real heritage market today. So just like you do old timey things, like what's an old timey thing you do? I don't even know. Like you go to Plymouth Plant. Like what's an old timey hobby people do? They go to a butter churning festival, apple picking or something like that. I don't know. It's not really old timey. Yeah, I mean, but there are like old fashioned things people like to do. You know, I can't believe I'm not thinking of any examples, but like it fits that niche. And actually, there's a drive-in theater near where I live. It's I think it's the oldest operating drive-in theater in America, or so they claim. I've actually been there once. It's kind of fun. Like if you have kids, it's easy. You just pull in, you watch a movie. It's not so bad. It feels very like 1950s. You got like I get it. Like I get it, but even that market, I think that's the definition of a slow, steady, you're in the reap phase of the business, right? Like if you're an operating drive-in movie theater today, you're basically paying down the fixed cost. You're amortizing your screens and your P&L every year, and when they stop working, you're closing down, right? I don't think there's not a drive-in theater movie boom, right? Yep. So yeah, but the benefit here is land is cheap in these places, right? The content's cheap to show. If there's habit around drive-in entertainment to begin with, you don't get the problems of an arena filling seats in the pandemic, so you don't have those issues. You don't have near any cost really for a structure, like you just put up a screen and an empty lot. How is this not way better than an esports arena? Because I can go, I mean, you can still sell food and like have concession and the whole bit. I don't know. I just got to tell you, like, I think we have in general a problem of like people will show up to compete today. Tournaments do very well, right? Tournaments and events do well.
the Overwatch League does trouble selling out their home stadiums, right? Like, I mean, so and those tickets are like $20, right? So if people aren't willing to go have the full Cadillac experience of people live, I mean, look, I mean,
but they can't, William. They can't go do the stadium experience today. This they can do.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I like it. Like I mean, I'll be.
I'm curious. The people watching, like, would you use a drive-in?
Yeah,
esports arena? Like, would you actually go
and be honest?
Take your car, park in the lot, and watch like League of Legends Worlds or the latest Overwatch League, whatever they're doing. I don't know. I think I don't think it's brilliant. It's a really old idea, but I think it's way better than going and building an arena. Glenn says, if I want to play games from a distance, I'll just stay home. Yeah, this is more to go watch, right? Clearly no one's playing here. They're just going to watch.
I guess the difference is, and actually that's a really good point. Sorry, not to like talk too much, but like, I guess it misunderstands why people go to see this stuff live. I really believe that is the viewing experience is better at home right now. It is. The Twitch thing is really good. The reason to go live is the thrill of the live event, the crowd chanting, meeting the fans, right? Like high-fiving, like it's buying the merch in the pop-up merch shop, like that's what's done it for me in the past with live events. This feels like it has none of those advantages because you're in your bubble of a car, right? And all of the downsides because you have prefixed content on a far array screen. Like at that point, you know what? It feels like to me this. If I wanted the drive-through esports experience, I could put my laptop on the dashboard of my car. Like I promise you
outside on the
literally, I promise you it would be a better viewing experience, right? And it would have better audio quality. I'm telling you. So like, no, I don't buy this
the small social experience with the drive-in, right? I guess, but you can also get that at home.
Yeah.
You can look at other people in their cars and virtual high five, you can look over at people.
I mean, I hope this is a thing because in the world where this is a thing, a lot of cooler things are also a thing. But like, if this is the thing that works, like, and you're right. I mean, the only way it works is if the cost of capital is just so low and these markets are just so desperate for esports activations that you win just by virtue of, in El Paso, there's 500 people who want to come and watch LCS. They have nowhere to watch it together. Now they have a place they can watch it together and your fixed cost is zero for running it. Then this works. Other than that world, I don't see it.
Julian says the poor live events industry, they have to try something, but drive-in is almost a downgrade in experience. Yeah, I agree. The first part, though, is the big, like, they have to do something. And building arenas right now, like we talked about, on the podcast last week, is like the dumbest thing you could be doing. This is slightly less dumb, I guess, but definitely desperate. Sharky says this seems desperate. Julian says would not go. Okay. Derek would go. Says sounds really fun, to be honest. See, there would be some audience for it. There would be.
Derek,
just like drive-in movie theaters.
I get the sense
I don't get drive-in movie theaters, right?
I get the sense Derek like things like hiking and farmers markets and being good.
Don't be like that. Don't be like that.
I'm just teasing you, Derek. I'm just teasing you. I love farmers markets too, by the way. They're like my favorite.
Wouldn't be caught dead in a drive-in esports theater. Why would I be in a car versus my apartment? Yeah, that was William's point. Probably not, to be honest. You're not getting the vibe of an arena. You may as well stay home. Derek says, ew, you're not wrong, though.
Yeah.
Look, they're trying something. And it's not building a multi-million-dollar arena. So
yeah, to their credit,
on them for trying something.
Yeah, it's new. Yeah.
Let's move on to another old thing. Another old thing being new again. This I almost thought it was an Onion article. Like I really thought it was sarcastic or satire. Twitch is bringing radio to your face. This is an article from Gizmodo. Twitch, home to popular esports streamers, is partnering with radio.com for interactive live stream of sports radio stations in major cities in the U.S. So basically, you will be able to go on Twitch and listen, well, / watch, but there won't be any visual, the radio on Twitch. William, tell me this is like, you think this is brilliant? You think this is stupid? It's a weird partnership. Let's put it that way.
Well, it goes back to what we talked about in the podcast with Twitch signing Logic. Was that his name?
Yeah.
It's like
you were a big fan, and you knew all his discography.
When I had Wikipedia open, I knew it all. Yeah, I was like, I knew it.
What's your favorite Logic song again?
That one? Homicide.
Oh, okay.
That is a real Logic song, Paul.
Okay. we were laughing on the podcast that Logic got signed as an exclusive, right, to Twitch, but neither of us watched his inaugural live stream, and William thought that was odd in some way, but neither of us are his demo. Neither of us knows any of his songs. Like, the reality is we were absolutely not in his demographic. But go ahead. Yeah. Why does radio make this? Why is it the same case as Logic?
They're running up against a market ceiling problem. Like, they can't get any bigger because they're pretty much about as large as they sort of are the market for streaming right now. They can only grow with the market or lose share as competitors come in. And we just talked about a competitor with a lot of money coming in. So, I feel like, they're trying to take this interactive format and pushing it to new locations. Why not radio? Like, seriously, why not? Like, radio makes sense, And I mean, even some of the language here in this article that feels to me like it was written by Twitch's PR people, like Twitch isn't just a hub for esports streamers anymore, right? Like, this is the language of a firm that's in phase 1 of broadening, right? They're looking for new verticals to expand. I mean, there it is, director of new verticals at Twitch, like right there. Like, they're trying to figure out where else they can get growth and traction. And I don't think radio is as good of a fit as music. I really don't. But I think when a business as big as Twitch, they're going to try everything, everything, right? Actually, I read this the opposite way, Paul, funnily enough. I don't know if you care, but I read this as, here's a list of radio stations that should be distributing Business of Esports. So throw that out there.
Well, they're more sports. I guess they could do esports. I don't know. It depends how open-minded they are. I mean, the first thought when I read this article was, I don't know if anyone watched Silicon Valley, but there's a character on the show, Russ Hanneman, and his whole claim to fame was he put radio on the internet. He's a parody of, I guess, maybe Mark Cuban or someone like that with broadcast.com. But the way he says it, it's like Twitch is bringing radio to the internet here. I'll tell you why I like this, though, William, and why I think it's borderline brilliant.
Tell me.
And why I think it's way smarter than the Logic signing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to do, at least and I'm speaking personally, but I think my personal experience is not unique in the way that I use Twitch and my behavior around Twitch. During the day, 9 to 5, whatever, right?
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Almost all the time, Twitch is on. It's on a third screen. It's out of, in fact, my vision. I have someone in the background. What used to be Doc, whatever, someone playing in the back or just chatting or something, right? A streamer that I like. But it was background noise, and it is background noise for me. I very rarely sit down and consume Twitch like I'm watching the streamer and doing nothing else.
Well,
and I think radio fills a similar role. It's like, give me the background noise, and if I can get that on Twitch, why wouldn't I? Right? Like,
well, this is my concern about Twitch a little bit. Is I sometimes wonder how much is the interactivity a lie, right? Like, and let me just throw it out there. Is I sometimes wonder if Twitch didn't have the Twitch chat, like, would it be 90% as successful, 80% as successful, right? Because like, and part of why I've, and I used to think the Twitch chat was really important, right? And there's definitely something addicting about just being able to type something and seeing what you typed pop up, particularly if you pair it with a bit donation, so you guarantee it's on screen, right? Like it's addictive. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. Like it's actually more fun for me too as a broadcaster doing this, because I love hearing what people think about this live. Like I genuinely think it's fun to read the comments as they come in and get live feedback and input from people who are listening. And I think this format works really well when you have 100 viewers, 200, but when Twitch gets to these 10,000 concurrent viewer numbers, right? Like there's no community anymore there. Like no one's being read. If I post something, it's disappearing into the ether. If I donate, I didn't donate enough, and I think that's why if interactivity was really important, you would have seen Ninja's following move, because interactivity depends on the community and the people, and that should have gone with the streamer,
But I think that's what we talked about last week, where 1,000 of his 40,000 moved because they're the ones engaged, chatting. No, like, you know what I mean? They're in there.
Yeah.
And then there's 30,000 plus that are just in there passively. They have it in the background. They found it on the front page. They, like it's like the majority are still there passively. And, Sharky made a similar comment to, I think, what I'm saying, which is some people just want to listen without the distraction of something on a screen, which I agree with.
Yeah.
And at least, and I know I'm not alone, 99% of my Twitch usage is not looking at the screen. I'm doing something else. I'm writing, I'm answering email, I'm on the phone, I'm something, and Twitch is just in the background.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So this is kind of brilliant.
Yeah, I agree.
Radio is like the quintessential background noise.
I completely agree. I mean, it is background noise. You know what I mean?
What I hate about it is it makes Twitch more and more vulnerable. The further they stray from gaming, the more they leave it open for someone else to take.
I agree. It's like and that's I think what caffeine and all these people are preying on, right? Is this idea that like, when you get big, you lose focus. And part of why Twitch won, if you remember, in the beginning, Twitch did tons of stuff, and then it just did one thing, gaming, and it exploded, shrink to grow, right? Now what's Twitch doing? It's trying to do all the other stuff it pruned off before, that it said not big enough, not right. And maybe the market's different right now, and maybe it's ready, or maybe this is the classic, you overscale a business, right? Like businesses do overscale. Like maybe they should have just been the greatest broadcaster for gaming and own the sport of the future and put all their resources there. But every dollar in corporate board minute that's going into something like this isn't going into protecting the home turf. And yeah, that home turf doesn't look particularly valuable right now based on prior strategies that we've seen. But I'm telling you, I think if you're a competitor and you come at Twitch, you come at them very quietly. You don't do it big. You do like the Apex Legends launch strategy in reverse, because this is network effects disruption. It all has to happen at once. I would do it very slowly. I would sign a lot of deals. I would be under the radar, and then you wake up one morning and it's these 5 games exclusive on caffeine, these 10 streamers move, like it's a nuclear blast. And maybe that's happening. I don't know. Sorry, we have Glenn M has a good comment here.
No, he says that it's an expansion into other areas of entertainment, which is, you can see it as an opportunity or you can see it as a risk. There's really two sides of it, right? The problem is, and I think, William, this is to a point you made earlier, they don't really have a choice.
Yeah. They don't.
Right? They don't really have a choice. They don't have the luxury to sit still and just have organic growth in existing categories.
Yep. No, that's the true problem here is like, I think they've reached a point where there's no more market to grow into. There's nobody doesn't know about Twitch. Like even my parents know what Twitch is, So yeah, they have to be different. And
it's not just that when you're that big, right?
Yeah.
1% or 2% or 3% growth may mean a lot in terms of viewer minutes, in terms of views, in terms of all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is the perception to executives internally, to the outside world. If you tell them, hey, we're growing 3%, it doesn't look good, right? And so then you end up having to move the needle when you're very large. And so you have to go and try new things, do crazy things.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Athlane gave us a clap. The Athlane co-founders were on the podcast this week, guys. So Don't miss tomorrow's episode. It's really, really good.
Yep.
Let's move on.
Let's do it.
Can we bring back an old favorite? This is like old-timey episode. Radio. We had drive-in theaters, and in a similar vein. So watch this segue: drive-in theaters, radio, Google Stadia. You like that, right?
I literally want to walk away. I want to walk away. From that. That was Paul. That's why your webcam is on top of my webcam. That's called. This is
why I get paid the big bucks at Business of Esports. That's called.
Like you, I don't know what else to say other than I am in awe. Like,
okay, let's talk about Stadia's latest major announcement. Because they're building the future of gaming here. The headline is from ScreenRant.com. Why Google Stadia's new lineup is full of old games. See, sticking with the old-timey theme. Google Stadia may have had a somewhat rocky start, but its new lineup of older games is a solid and meaningful step in the right direction. So they announced, among other things, Borderlands 3, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and Dead by Daylight. Games that everyone has already played and beaten. And so, but you can buy them again on Google Stadia and play them again on Google Stadia.
I mean, to be fair, Sekiro might be one of my favorite games of all time. So it's a good game. I'm just speechless. Like, what? Like, imagine if I came to you and I pitched you a business and I was like, imagine buying all the greatest games a year after release for full retail price. Like that, I just don't understand. But I'm also, as a developer, I am just so happy that they access this pot of money, because it just seems like if I were any publisher, I'd be setting an alarm for 1 year after launch for and I'd call up Google Stadia and be like, we have some great lineups for you. You know, Ghost of Tsushima had incredible reviews. Wouldn't you like to buy that exclusively? Like, I just, my understanding is 95% of a title's sales happen in the first 2 months. And it's like 75% happen in the first 2 days. It's like a very heavily concentrated sales curve. I don't know if those numbers are quite right. I was told those anecdotally. They seem a little large to me, but I think the trend is true. Monetizing titles this late in life cycle, it's sad because it shows me the only titles they can get are titles the developers have written off, that are just in their tail revenue side, and any bonus or kick is worth it,
Stadia, our favorite topic. Julian says there's a case for rebuying on Switch for form factor reasons. I do it all the time, but come on, this behavior can't translate to Stadia. I mean, you're right. That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
At least Switch has a form factor reason for buying it a second time. Glenn, hot garbage. I got to get that trademarked or something.
Yeah, you got to hit it with the emoji.
I do actually on Twitch have an emoji of me on fire, which is kind of like my hot garbage one.
Oh, okay.
Get back to me with Stadia when Google discovers and implements FTL comms. That's the only way to play on it. Sharky, I don't know what you mean specifically. I assume FTL is faster than light, which would we... Yeah, as I've always said, Google has to break the laws of physics to make Stadia work. Mm-hmm. Greg, I think the strategy would actually work if they went really old school and I could travel and play games without having a gaming PC. Like very, when you say old school, like very old games, like bring out the entire catalog of what's the website where you get very old games there?
Good old games.
Good old games. Yeah.
GOG, yeah.
I don't know. What do you think of that niche?
I mean, getting really niche there, and tech savvy people already do it on jailbroken phones and stuff, like they can run emulators on their phone. And I mean, it is actually, oddly enough, a pretty good idea. Like if Nintendo sold a controller that Bluetooth synced with my phone and let me play the SNES catalog, I would buy that. That's a good idea. I would buy that, right? And probably at that level, but if it's that old school, it doesn't need cloud computing because you can run it it can be done locally. Like, that's the problem, is like, the further back you go in the back catalog, the less you need cloud computing at all, because it's like sad, but like, look, PlayStation era games run on your phone just fine now.
Well, like more than just fine.
Yeah. So we're already like PlayStation 2 games make the get. Well, did I just get really blurry for some reason? That was weird.
It's trying to focus on my beautiful face behind you.
It came back to where it knows.
The camera momentarily fell in love.
It did. It strayed a little. Yeah.
Can I tell you why I love this article, though, William, and why I wanted to bring it up, and not just to bash on Stadia?
Yeah.
Because there's something that stood out here to me, which was a good learning moment. Okay. Because the industry, for the most part today, is filled with journalists. You've got the slashers of the world. You've got all the esports insiders and esports observers and esports this and esports that, right? I think where Business of Esports is fundamentally different is we're not journalists. We don't pretend to be. We don't break the news. We don't write the news, right? We're business people. We're investors. We're people who have been doing this for decades, who understand the business angle of these things, have been successful in business, and can comment on the business repercussions, right? I hate seeing journalists trying to give business opinions because they just lack the experience. They lack the insight because it's not what they do, right? They're writers. Fundamentally, they're writers. And so hold on. I just want to read you the first sentence of this paragraph here, because it really, really got to me. It says, Google Stadia is an undeniably masterful idea on paper. Given the success of video streaming services such as Netflix and Hulu, it makes sense for gaming to move in a similar direction. Does that not tell you they fundamentally don't understand what Stadia is?
I mean, yes. I'm also bothered by even saying more fundamental, which is you don't need on paper in the first sentence. Like, that's wasted words.
No, but like they fundamentally don't understand the difference between distributing a game, like a game running over the cloud, like Stadia, right, where the game is running on a server and being channeled to a dead, like a dumb screen, versus something like Netflix and Hulu, which is more a content play, right? Which is, let me give you all these shows for one price, all you can eat. And that's not what Stadia is at all. At all.
No, and it bothers me, and I think this is also why you see this in one sentence is why you see Stadia greenlit, because there was a slide somewhere that was movie equals Netflix equals whatever it's worth now. What is it, 500 billion or something? No, it's not that much. It was some insane number, right?
It's a big number.
Yeah, and then size of movie industry, which is, what is it, 120 billion or something, I think is the movie industry today. I don't know, something like that. And then it was the same math with gaming larger than movies, because gaming is basically bigger than movies now, 152 billion, question mark. And then, if I were a CEO in a room who didn't know too much, I'd look at that and say, yeah, why is there no streaming for that entertainment category? Let's get on it. We have streaming for radio. Those are podcasts. We have streaming for we have streaming for TV show. That's Hulu. Movies. That's Netflix. Let's get on that, guys. Why isn't that happening? Make it go. Chop, chop. And you're right. It fundamentally misunderstands. And it's also ironic because if Google Stadia had exclusive content, if Google were making games specifically designed for its cloud platform, I'm not saying that would fix it because they have massive tech issues, but it would at least make this a lot more interesting.
It would make this sentence half true, in that Netflix creates their own content, Stadia creates their own content. The difference is Netflix is buying content and providing that at an all-you-can-eat price. Stadia is not doing that with games. They're just delivering the games via the cloud. So you can use a dumb terminal, a dumb screen, essentially, to play the game because it's being rendered elsewhere. Very fundamentally different things. This is like Stadia, and I hate reading this, I hate hearing it, is not the Netflix of gaming. It is not.
By the way, since we're
Xbox Game Pass is more the Netflix of gaming. To be clear.
That's actually very true. Xbox Game Pass is the Netflix game. That's like the correct one-to-one parallel. And that's done very well, by the way. That was like a big success. Can you scroll up? Because I have another pet peeve here that I want to call out. And it's the news article on the side. Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 is now officially in full development.
Okay. Why is this an issue?
Because this is the definition of a manufactured news story getting coverage. Like, are you telling me this game was not, like, is this a surprise? Did anybody in the chat think that given they made one half of a game that was Final Fantasy VII, they weren't already in development for the second? Like, this is the exact definition of, and I say this all the time, is publishers push out these really empty news stories that are basically like they confer, like there's nothing newsworthy about it. And it gets pick up across outlets like a Screen Rant. I'm not trying to criticize them because I think some of their coverage is actually good around movies because it sort of seems new and fresh. But this is like my exact least favorite type of journalism in the industry right now. It's basically reheated, like it's the definition of reheated microwave news. I don't know, just an aside.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's finish on Stadia. Is Stadia a case? Julian says, is Stadia a case study in when building around a particular tech goes wrong? They went to streaming for really no reason. Was this preempting for next gen telecom on the part of Google? Oh my God. Like we could spend an hour on why Stadia exists, why internally a project like this comes to life.
It's a beautiful question though.
It is a really good question. And I think
really damn good question.
Complex, right?
Yeah.
It's Google decides they want to play in gaming because they're big. Big tech companies are always looking for battlegrounds. They're always looking for places where they can fight on relatively even terms. And if they're not on even terms, they want to make sure they have a player on that field, right? And so, big tech has fought in the mobile space, but when I say big tech, I mean like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, right? All the tech giants, Facebook. And I think Google looked at Microsoft, looked at Facebook, looked at Amazon. They all had sort of a play in gaming and they needed to do something. Google is very much an engineering driven company. And they just figured we can do engineering better. We can do cloud better. So this is where we'll make our play. And it sounds nice. It makes for great headlines. But in practice, it's really hard to get right, even from an engineering perspective. And we've spent a lot of time discussing how they got not only the engineering wrong, they got the match between engineering and marketing wrong. There was just not a fit there. So I try and summarize like 2 hours of discussion into 2 minutes, but
it's a deep question though. It's a good question.
Sharky says, how do you recommend your viewers get that knowledge besides watching you? Well, what's wrong with just watching us?
Yeah,
Sharky?
Basically, we'll seem a lot smarter if we're the only views you get.
You can listen to the podcast. That's one way. You can buy the book of esports. That's another way. I put on LinkedIn every week a 1 minute or 2 minute clip of all the sort of main stuff you need to know that week.
Mm-hmm. Those are really good, by the way.
We put out weekly news digests, so covering all the main news of the week. I don't know if you need to go anywhere else, really.
I mean, very, very honestly, like, and I really mean this. This is not like being like, I now get all my industry news from us because it's like the most relevant stuff gets exerted, really. Like look, we do use, obviously we don't write the news, right? Like we get from Esports Observer and other, but I think in terms of like actually what matters, I think we do a pretty good job of pulling it out. If there are other sources you want to look at, I think they're better off being about the games, right? Because the things we don't really cover are like, we don't go into detail about like so-and-so traded in the Overwatch League or like this game gets a review of 8.9. And you do need to know about that a little bit, to understand what's going on in the industry and how it operates. And that doesn't have business value. So we don't really comment on it. But like, I would look for sources like that, if you're actually really trying to understand, because you have to at least know like players get traded, how much they go for, this new game is coming out, it's really good. Like those are things you should probably know too. It's just, they have a different type of value into the industry. They speak to the entertainment side, the talent market side, but they're not really a business side.
I mean, my advice is always listen to business people with a good track record.
Yep.
And take their advice. And in this industry, there's frankly not that many talking heads who have that. But
Julian has a good point too. He says Google Alerts. That's good too.
Yeah, Google Alerts are great.
Very good.
To be honest, our news digest that comes out once a week now, it's scripted from Google Alerts basically. So it aggregates Google Alerts. It tries to figure out if it's business and esports newsworthy, and includes it if it does and removes it if it doesn't. So we do some of the work for you in terms of Google Alerts in that weekly digest.
Yeah. And then we curate a little. But we always get anything that's big. I mean, I really mean that. Like the stuff we're cutting is like the very chafy stuff, particularly now with this live stream. Like we cover all the stuff that doesn't make the podcast. There's
when it was just the podcast, there was stuff that probably fell by the wayside. But
so basically, stick with us, Sharky. There are no other news sources worth your
time. People ask me all the time what conferences they should go to. Esports conferences, I think, are some of the worst.
Yeah.
Because A, the speakers aren't that interesting. B, they're often not very good speakers. C, if they're paying, like if they're sponsoring to be speakers, that's, you're getting basically taken for a ride.
Yeah, up until we do an Business of Esports conference, then that's worth your money. No, but I mean, like, there's also just fundamentally like you should get different perspectives. So I really like to read things like Gama Sutra and Destructor of Fun. Like I really like to read the sites that think critically long form about games and content. Personally, I strongly recommend those two, particularly Gama Sutra. There's some really well-written stuff on Gama Sutra. And then I also recommend, by the way, following some people who are influential in the industry beyond, Paul and I, right? Like, I mean, there's just like on Twitter and things like that. Like there are actually
the business people, not journalists. I don't mean slasher. Like
they're like. They're like, and I mean, I said, I don't know how influential Paul and I are, but I mean, like, they're like, you'd be surprised. There are executives at companies.
The guests that come on our podcast, mostly.
Exactly. Follow those guys. They tweet relatively freely. They're comfortable having their views on the space be public, which not everybody is, by the way. And they genuinely have a perspective, right or wrong. They're operating in the space. They're taking risks with their careers and their companies, and so they're good for color, right? And I mean, and even people space adjacent, right? Like I'm a huge fan of Mark Rosewater, the guy who does Magic. I follow him, right? Because I think he has really good comments on game design. I think he's one of the greatest living game designers alive, So people like that are a real pleasure to follow too, in my mind. And you get really good unfiltered stuff from them.
I'll just finish with this. We make an effort to curate the guests that come on the podcast, right? To find good C-suite people with good business opinions, who are doing interesting things. Like, so those girls are always great to follow. Yep. Julian's just memeing now.
No. Heroes of the Storm did actually exceed Overwatch for like 2 days on Twitch this week.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Is that actually true?
I believe it's true.
This is not a meme?
No, it's not a meme. Like it. I mean, it unfortunately, it's more of a comment about Overwatch than it is Heroes of the Storm. It's just
because William was logged in 2 places, Julian. So that's why it was a big number.
It is making a comeback, Julian.
Let's talk about venture capital in esports. This is from technical.ly. 76 Capital Sports Advisory Venture brings consulting to athletes social capital. The VC firm's new consulting group aims to better equip the people and orgs it works with for the paradigm shift in esports, sports betting, media, and social responsibility. 76 Capital, if I'm not mistaken, is focused very much like on sports, investing in sports.
Yeah.
And as an extension of that, esports.
Mm-hmm.
But, I saw this article, William, and it's a little bit of like, we spend a lot of time, or at least I do, criticizing Bitcraft for the deals they do, the valuations they're doing them at, the amount of capital they're putting to work. Because I think there's so much noise, but they have capital to commit, to put to work, and they end up doing not good deals, like pretty crappy deals. This stood out for me kind of in a similar vein, which is like, you don't see Sequoia announcing a consulting arm, right? Like there's only two options here. Either business is bad at 76 Capital, like they're out of dry powder. They have no more money to commit to startups. They didn't raise a second fund or whatever fund they're on. And now they need new avenue, like new ways to generate revenue. That's option one. Option two is they're seeing no good deals, right? Like there's just nowhere to put money. And so they have to fill the time with something. So let's add value to our existing portfolio in some other way. But in both cases, it kind of confirms what I've been saying about Bitcraft all along, which is being an early stage VC in the space today is really not easy. Like if you're just a classic VC operating classic model, classic structure, the deal flow exists, but huge, like very low signal to noise ratio. And the deals you end up having to do are probably not that good, right? You end up having to do them because you've got capital sitting, burning a hole in your pocket.
Yeah, it's just
didn't this come off weird to you?
It just doesn't feel great. Like it goes the opposite direction all the time. Like Bain Consulting starts Bain Capital, right? But to your point, Sequoia doesn't start Sequoia, Sequoia Guidance LLC, and it sort of goes against the thesis, which is the whole idea of being a VC is having conviction and an opinion on the space, right? And like putting your capital to work, making your vision of the space exist, right? Because partly, I think if you take the most favorable view of VC, which you can argue if it makes sense or not, but if you take the most favorable view of VC, it's you are literally shaping the evolution of the industry because you are assigning resources and therefore opportunities to the businesses that you believe should reflect the future of the industry, right? And so if that is your thinking, consulting is sort of anathema to that because consulting is that, but chickening out, right? It's like giving people your views and your guidance, but not actually trust, so, and I think that's a lot of times why you see consulting go to VC, but VC not go to consulting is it's a small step for consultants that are already working with clients to say, this is really good. We'll consult for free because, in exchange for stock, because we think this is going to go somewhere. And then it's a step further to say, hey, how do we get in this round? And bam, all of a sudden you're Bain Cap, right? Whereas going the other way, it's hard because all the people who you don't want to put money in are not worth your time and don't deserve your advice. And you say, go away. That's sort of the thesis of being a VC, right? So yeah, this doesn't feel great. There needs to be a different model for venture capital. I mean, I'm like so convinced that just like some traditional sporting models are struggling in esports, some traditional venture capital models are struggling here. And it's time for a very different VC model, or at least a model that's less popular in traditional VC to rise to prominence here, because this is either reflective of exactly right, a lack of deal flow, a lack of funds or something, but it's not a normal place to go, It's not.
It felt weird to me. But I think your point is a really good one, right? Like it's like if you're going to consult and you have conviction on the space, like why wouldn't you be investing? Like
exactly. Like that's what I mean. Like it goes one way or the other. Like I understand why consultants don't invest because their whole thing is like, we don't have conviction. Like that's basically being
or capital sitting around, right?
Exactly. You don't have capital sitting around. And I was a management consultant for a few years. I mean, I worked at BCG. For you guys who don't know, I had a great experience there. I loved it. But I can tell you, a lot of the joke with management consultants is they're the most risk-averse people in the world. That's why they're consulting, right? They like to tell other people what to do. They don't like to take the risks themselves. And that's the exact opposite in VC. So...
Well, I would argue VCs are some of the most risk-averse people in the room. Because when was the last time you saw this announcement? Like, startup XYZ raises money from venture firm A. Boom.
So,
You know,
okay.
it's
Oh,
never
okay.
that. It's always
Oh,
a list of venture firms. It's
okay.
always 6 of them because no one wants to go alone. They look around. Is he investing? Is she investing? Are they investing?
Not to go completely crazy here, right? Not to go completely crazy here, but in that point, this is totally wild. So you can tell me to shut up if you don't talk about this. But I have been thinking quite a lot recently about how you can mathematically show that VCs are capital inefficient. And I'm pretty sure that, or are capital inefficient with allocating their funds. And I'm pretty sure you can do this with something called the Kelly criterion. Have you heard of the Kelly criterion?
No.
So the Kelly criterion is
Just to be clear, I've heard a very opposite argument, William,
which is what?
That allocation to venture, if you look at average like IRR and average return on investment and things like that as an asset class, is massively underfunded.
So
massively, like by an order of magnitude. And there are many in the industry who believe that we're going to see a 10x increase in dollars going to venture as an asset class.
So that could be true, and my point could still stand. My point is not VCs don't perform well, because clearly they do. Look, historically, they perform incredibly well, right? The point is VCs could perform better if they obeyed the Kelly criterion.
Okay, so what is the Kelly criterion?
The Kelly criterion is basically a method for gambling that, in a nutshell, says the amount you invest should be proportional to the probability of winning. And it's mathematically provable that if you know the probability of winning with reasonable certainty, you should therefore know the amount you invest. And what the answer, what the Kelly criterion drives you to do, which is a little bit surprising, is place fewer bigger bets, right? Like the classic example for Kelly criterion is if you're betting on coin flips, you should bet 20% of your funds every time. And this has really got me thinking, because the investor everybody points to, and I'd argue almost the VC, because he sort of that everybody points to, is Warren Buffett. And what does Warren Buffett do? He places very few big bets, right? Like I think what is like 40% of his fund is in Apple right now or something. And actually, I discovered Buffett is a fan of the Kelly criterion. So I'm seriously wondering if this is just like this little known mathematical principle. And I mean, people must know about this, because if Warren talks about this, like everybody in the industry, but I haven't heard this brought up before, but I've really wondered if there's not, like, right now, the capital allocation strategy, if you think of how VCs allocate capital, right? It's a little bit like we've pre-decided the amount of capital a business deserves. Like your seed, you're getting somewhere between 1 and 4 million. Your Series A, you're getting somewhere between 3. And you know what I mean? Like it's sort of decided by round size. But that makes no sense if you actually think about it. Like if you have a sure winner at seed, you should be, way over indexing with them, right? You shouldn't be just giving them a seed. So I don't know. I mean, it's a little.
Yeah, I would argue the check size you write is probably more related not to the round. Oh, it is related to the round, obviously, but more just to the structure of your fund, like, right? If you go and you're a $50 million fund and you tell LPs we're going to do 10 deals, you have less than 5 million, more like, 4 something to put in every deal over the life of that deal. And you need to sort of be thinking as a VC into the future, because your first check might be $1 million or 2 million, but you've got to be thinking, how many more rounds of financing is this company going to be doing? I need to have dry powder. I agree the allocation's probably imperfect. I would just say there are examples like 500 startups that performed very well, right? And their whole model was, we'll put 50 grand in anything that moves. You're a startup and you move, like you're a mobile human being, or like you're breathing, we'll put 50 grand. And the idea is that
I don't know here, but it's something I don't think is talked about a lot, which is this idea of, because VCs return so well, maybe, and I think there's less of a question of do VCs correctly allocate, because either way, what you're describing is I have 50 million to spend this year. I think I can do 10 checks. Therefore, I have to write an average check size of 5 million. That's still not what should be optimal, at least sort of by this gambling theory, which is you should be evaluating the probability of success and you should be allocating your cap. And by the way, this is intuitive, right? This should be like intuitive as an outcome, because if I have one business that returns 2x with 100% certainty, and another business that returns 2x or 4x with 50% certainty, or 3x 50% certainty, I would rather be in the 2x with 100% certainty expected payoff category, right? Those bets, even though in some worlds the 3x bet looks smarter, for the repeated game, I'll do way better on the 2x 100% bet every time. So really, I mean, I don't know. Look, this is really not Business of Esports, so I should be quiet about this.
No,
but
I think it's fascinating because there are implications, because we do see people playing in venture in the industry. I think what a lot of people miss, and I think after being in that business for a decade and a half, is there's so much art to it. It's not all science and math, unfortunately, right? You look at later stage private equity, very different.
Yeah.
There's mathematical principles that rule that world. You buy at X, you sell at Y, you know exactly how much capital to allocate, how much leverage, how much, right? Yeah. There are very specific rules and math that applies there. With early stage venture, there's an element of art to it. And that's why I always laugh that a lot of the people do it are so risk averse. They're always looking, to the guy next to them to see what they're doing, which defies and defeats the whole purpose of the industry, in my mind, right? These are supposed to be the risk takers, the ones who have vision and conviction that despite the risk, they're going to make something happen and something's going to do well here, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, we can think about it more, but it's interesting. But I'm just struck as an entrepreneur how before I've ever told a fund what I do, right, the fund tells me their check size, right? Like, let's be honest, that's how it operates.
But it's because it's ruled by their structure, right?
Exactly. But my point still stands is that is definitely wrong. Like, the check size of the fund should be determined by the quality of the opportunity, right? And now your argument might be, yes, then you're just channeled to funds where the quality of your opportunity matches the check size. Mm-hmm. But the thing the Kelly criterion points to is the check size also matters less compared to the relative size of the check to the overall fund you're writing. So what that would say is if every fund thinks they can do 10 deals, right, then and they're just, whether they have 50 million doing $5 million deals or 100 million doing 10, every fund is still behaving wrong because every fund should still behave the same, right? Then there would be opportunities that got missed or underallocated. So again, I mean, I'm not a mathematician, so it's tough for me I don't really understand the science behind it and all the predictivity, but intuitively, I feel as an entrepreneur that it's weird that whenever you talk to a fund, they don't really, the way funds lean in or lean out is subsequent rounds, right? That's the way they double down on an investment, right? And that's just not a good mechanism. Like, that is a mechanism, it's one, but that shouldn't be the mechanism that funds use. And you can mathematically show that that's not a great way to do it, right?
Yeah. So there is proof in the data, because I've spent a lot of time on this. The earlier you invest in the life cycle of a startup, the more value you capture, right? So the guy who with the last money in is going to capture less value, even if the company's a big success than the guys in earlier rounds. So you take more risk, but you capture more value. What you're saying is maybe the check should be bigger, even if your fund is not structured that way.
Yeah, or what it's really saying too, and I think you'll like this, Paul, because I was wondering about this, is you should take fewer bets and invest in them more to maximize the probability of success, right? So
if you have conviction around a thesis, that can work.
Maybe, yeah.
And if you're the kind of VC who's a real value add guy, operator who can go in, get their hands dirty, make phone calls, create value for your portfolio, I totally agree there, because you're better off making fewer bets where you have more control and more conviction.
Yep. Yeah.
Than just betting on flyers for the sake of a diversified portfolio. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we see any. The problem is, again, in the esports industry, bringing it back, I don't know if you have enough great deals where you would have great conviction around it to be able to follow that model. We are still in a phase of Bitcraft mode, like spray and pray, right? We'll put money in everything with the thesis that the space is growing, so we might do well.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's think about it. But I'd like to talk with you more about this, because and sorry for our listeners to be totally weird, but like I I just really wonder if there's not more portfolio, like if there's not a portfolio discipline for VCs here that isn't necessarily as applied today that should be. But anyway, yeah, this is an interesting one. Is anybody still here? The live chat like totally stopped while Paul and I went down that like.
they want more Heroes of the Storm content.
Yeah, that's the crowd pleaser.
That's the crowd pleaser. Cam said interesting thoughts on that, guys. Yeah, the venture industry is an interesting animal. It's one I'm very passionate about. So I always like to talk about. Guys, on that note, I don't think we have anything else this week. Other than you guys missed me and William playing Hyperscape, but we talk about that on the podcast.
We did play a bit of Hyperscape finally. And I did change my background to Heroes of the Storm just to get the viewers back for the last 30 seconds.
You thought my face was scaring them away?
No, that was why so many people stayed.
That's it. I couldn't even name any of these characters, so I don't know. No, I guess some of them are WoW.
Are you kidding? These are like all famous. They're like, there's Kerrigan, Jaina Proudmoore. You can name these. Come on.
I can name these. You got Ragnaros right behind you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's my fave.
Well, Cam says still waiting on the hot stream, William. Maybe one day. William, show them the book one more time. I heard even the second printing is almost sold out now.
Yeah. Guys.
What is with, by the way, Cam having a copy already? I don't know how that happened.
Cam, did you get a copy already?
I saw him posted on Twitter. Not to put him on the spot.
Oh, I think I mailed you a copy. Didn't you bug me about it? You were like, mail me one, and I was like, yeah, I'll definitely mail you one. You're great. You always watch it. Did I? I must have mailed it to you, right? I can't. Cam didn't stick around for the spotlight moment.
No, actually, I was hilarious because I saw the photo of it on Twitter, and it has a sticker on it. I think that says like. It's an uncorrected copy.
Yeah, Cam has this version. This is like the proofreads. I think Cam asked. I gave him a choice because I was like, I really appreciate it. You always watch. Like, I'm happily send you something. And do you want the real one or the galley? And he wanted the galley, which is way cooler, by the way.
But the uncorrected copy, obviously they do it on purpose. I love the sticker. It's misspelled.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like a total mess. Yeah. Not only that, and they also uncorrected. You guys, and they also put Space Invaders on the sticker for like no reason.
I thought it was good.
Julian
says, "Send the damn books, dude. Mm-hmm. Send them, William. What are you waiting for? William is going to personally package every one.
I found it much better business to just sell out printings and tell people how good it is.
There's actually no book.
The joke is it's just completely blank pages.
Blank pages.
I mean, honestly, like that's the model that I'm on, right?
Greg says no tribute to Mixer's last day. I mean, it's like we knew they were terminal a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's like the end, very unceremonious. Although I heard that on their website, they had like a collage of streamers. And almost all of them, the titles of their stream were like, we're going to Twitch. But then they had a big ad saying like, Mixer's moving to Facebook Gaming or something like that. But then all the individual streamers had like, we're going to Twitch.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that.
I just think, I mean, it's, I think it's sad, guys, actually, because Mixer should have been a contender. Mixer should have worked. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The cake is a lie. Which cake is a lie?
That's a meme from Portal.
Wow. Okay.
I can't believe you don't know that.
I never played Portal.
Oh, Portal's really good. You'd like that.
I mean, I've played it. I just didn't play it seriously. Okay. Good Steersman. And I accidentally ordered the book twice, once on US Amazon and one on Australian Amazon. Martin, did William put you up to that? Did he force you to do that? Because he's been aggressive with people about ordering multiple books.
Yeah. There's also UK Amazon, New Zealand Amazon, Chinese Amazon. There's a couple more you could accidentally purchase.
Is it sold anywhere else, William? Actually, I don't know.
It's sold everywhere. Yeah, it has. I mean, it's sold in, and there's. I don't know if it's. We have a couple foreign language translation deals for it too. I know it's getting a.
Does anyone else even sell books online other than Amazon?
I mean, yeah, there are. I mean, honestly, like the publisher gave me a whole list of sites where it's sold, like Barnes and Noble. But honestly, like I don't.
Barnes and Noble's still selling books online?
Let me tell you, I had to list it on my website, actually, everywhere it's sold to meet the trade thing. It's sold Amazon, Barnes and Noble, IndieBound, BAM Books a Million, Bookshop. I mean, I can keep, there are independent retailers and less that see, I do not understand how that works, but like, yeah, there are still alternatives for books distribution.
Julian says off to play Heroes unironically. Peace out, guys. Julian memeing. No one plays Heroes unironically. Everyone's playing it ironically at this point.
Not true.
Martin says can't cancel the US one because it's first edition. There you go. That
right.
A boy.
That's exactly right. That's the perfect thinking.
Yeah, and you've got your book launch soon too, right?
That's right, August 4th, and there's a lot of great stuff happening for it. Actually, Greg, who's in the chat, is hosting an event.
Will anyone be able to watch that content? Are we going to put that content somewhere?
We should look at putting it on Business of Esports as well. I know there's a live stream there that we're going to do. There a lot of people have been really flattering and supportive of the book. Vivaldi Partners is going to do something.
I have to interview you, right? It's going to be all about you.
Yeah. No, that's not going to be all about me. But it's
going to be all about you, William.
We're like it if it's a little about me.
We're going to get the William origin story.
Yeah, you can ask me my very first experience playing games, Zelda Gold cartridge. Oh my God. I don't know if that holds up. I really want to go back and play it now and be like, does it have everything I remember? But I'm scared it won't.
Original Zelda?
Yeah, original Zelda, yeah.
You can get it on the Nintendo classic console that they released, the
I'm
NES.
Just sort of scared too, because I've replayed a couple games that I thought were good. And some of them do hold up. Like Super Mario World really holds up. That is just as good today as it was. A lot of other games don't. Very disappointing. We've come so far in terms of game design, you know what I mean? Anyway, but yeah, we'll talk about, maybe next week, we'll talk about some stuff for the book launch, because there's a couple things happening and we should share it with you guys. And it'll be, if we live stream next Wednesday, the book will launch before the podcast after that. So we should get a list of things for you guys to look at.
I think we should do some kind of a live stream just around the book, William. Once people have had a chance to read it, there should be some opportunity for people to ask questions around it, don't you think? Or to take questions around it.
We should
and then address them on stream or on the podcast or something like that.
Yeah, we should totally do that. We should do a special book live stream. I'd love to do that. People can, and I maybe, yeah, and I can talk through and tell you guys, more about. I mean, I'm a little shy about it because I feel guilty talking about it so much, but I really do think it's good. I just. The second book I write with Paul will be better, or we write together. But yeah, we should maybe we do the live stream after the August 5th, the day after launch. Maybe we do that as just a book live stream,
Question to Cam. Cam, did you finish the book today? I don't know if he said he was going to try and finish it before the live stream. So I'm curious if he actually did. He said, Martin says, I'd watch that book launch. Yeah. I don't know if we'll be able to record it or something, but would love to give you guys that content. Cam says, you guys still thinking about the game live streams? Look, if you ask William, he bugs me about it all the time.
I'm not bugging Paul about it anymore after that hypers. I was so embarrassing. I don't even know how Paul talks to me anymore. That was criminally. My play was just, I was sitting at the keyboard. Paul didn't know. I was muting my mic and being like, get your head in the game. You're not
you can do this, William. You can do it.
You're not this pathetic. You're not. It was literally I honestly believe this. My parents would have gotten more. I was so bad.
You're being a little hard on yourself, and we did have fun. So that that's all that matters. Cam says, I did not. Maybe by next week's stream. Okay, cool. Guys, on that note, that wraps up this week's stream. William, thank you as always.
Paul, thank you as always. It's a blast.
Maybe Martin, you can get on Amazon Australia. William will call Amazon Australia and tell them to get it out to you faster somehow.
I'm dealing with that immediately. This is a
you live too far away. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It's a tough market. It is for stuff.
It is a tough market. But no. So for those still in here, Don't forget, podcast drops tomorrow. Really awesome episode with the founders of Athlane, covering some really great topics. Don't miss that. Thank you for coming every week to these live streams. We're going to keep doing it around this time every Wednesday night. And the audience has been growing, so I'm encouraged. And we've been enjoying it, guys. Like, probably, I think we like it way more than you guys do. We just love doing it.
Honestly, I have a problem, and I really don't know how I'm doing this. I feel like I'm not trying as hard on the main podcast because I just enjoy this so much.
Like, you're saving some?
Yeah,
you're saving the good stuff for here.
I really feel like I don't engage in the main podcast the same way. Like, I feel like I hold it back for this. Like, I don't know. It's something about maybe being able to see you, Paul. Like, because remember, like, we used to see each other a lot and kind of vibe, and seeing you here, like, I feel like I have more of a rapport and we can play more. And I don't know. I just like, that's why I'm almost thinking we should start to just even do video links to record the audio podcast, because I think it makes a difference. You know, like, we just. Like,
once we get back in studio, that's going to be a lot easier, to be honest.
Huge,
with good cameras, with good everything.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week. Go pre-order William's book. It's so soon. It's coming out. Listen to the podcast. If you haven't given us a 5-star review on the podcast, guys, we'd really appreciate it. Again, telling other people about it, either doing it by a 5-star review or just telling people actually in person or over the phone or by email. Spreading the word's always appreciated. So thank you again, and we will see you guys next week.